Stress and burnout, how to prevent it, how to heal from it, how to not get there in the first place, right? So if you are watching live, hello. We've got people coming on. If you're watching live, say hi, and we can, and let me know if you already have questions about stress and burnout and how you'd like to go about this. I'm gonna give you tips and tricks, of course, but I also think this can be kind of a philosophical question in terms of our belief system, right? We've got so many beliefs and values that can create the environment in ourselves, in our system for burnout and stress to begin with, right? So yes, I'm going to give you tips and tricks, but also I like to go deeper than that. I tend to not be very interested in the shallow aspects of life. I like to go deep. So let's go deep together, huh? If you let me know where you're coming from. Where are you watching? Are you on your couch? If so, where? Are you in your car? Tell me. I want to know where your body is. And we can get started. So again, if you're joining in now, we are talking about stress and burnout and how to prevent those things. So got a few stories for you, of course, and we'll go from there. Yeah, and if you have questions, let us know. So I think it's important to talk about preventing stress and burnout from the perspective of people who are driven and multi-passionate and hardworking and goal-oriented, right? So for me, on my end, this is going to be, I have a lot of passion about this because I've really suffered from this, and I've had to work hard to change a lot of things about myself and the way that I operate in order to not get to that place. So I might cuss, I might, I have a strong opinion on this, and I have some stories. They might be kind of intense, right? So I hope you can see the forest for the trees. Feel free to comment. Please comment. Let us know where you are and what comes up for you around this, right? That's really what this is about. It's not just me up here on my soapbox. I want to know what matters for you in this, yeah? And just because I'm passionate about this as well doesn't mean that I have all the answers. I've got it all figured out. It's always a work in progress, yeah? So, hello everyone. Oops, that's not what I wanted. How do we change this? Here we go. Hi. Hello everyone. Okay, having trouble there. Okay, so the story for me of where this comes from in me is I was going hard through graduate school. I was living in San Francisco. I was hustling. Yeah. I was working about 4 or 5 different jobs on top of teaching yoga, like about 12 to 15 yoga classes a week. All my yoga teachers know that that's a significant amount, on top of being in graduate school full time. Yeah. So I was driving all over the city. I was getting super expensive parking tickets all the time because I was running late. I was trying to catch the bus. I'm running. I'm carrying all this stuff. Sweaty. I mean, that's just like one snapshot, right? And for all you SF people, you feel me on the expensive parking tickets. If you have a car in the city, right? It's like at least $70 per parking ticket because you could be that far into a driveway, right? Or you don't have your wheels turned the right way, but that's a whole nother story, yeah? So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew that I wanted to work for myself, and that I wanted to, if I did work for somebody else, that it was in alignment with where I was going, yeah? That it allowed me some kind of learning experience that was on my path. Yeah, that was in alignment. So not all the things that I was doing in that time were in alignment with that. I mean, they mostly were, but I think a lot of the things were starting to get that way where I was honing what I was doing more and more. So every single day, despite all my meditation, daily meditation, being in therapy, I could feel my nervous system on edge every single day, okay? And an example of this is I was so quick to jump to anger and anxiety. Okay, so I was pretty much almost always either anxious or angry. which doesn't feel good. Yeah. And so this could look like a lot of things for you. This could look like shutting down, becoming numb. It could look like going into fight, flight, freeze mode more quickly. And we're going to talk more about the somatic manifestations or the body oriented manifestations of burnout and stress. Yeah. So if you're just popping on, we're talking about burnout and stress, of course. Let us know where you're joining from. Say hi. And so this can look like a lot of things for different people, but my body tends to go towards fight and flight more quickly than just shutting down. But I also do notice various aspects of it freezing and getting stuck. Okay, so if you experience, you're like, I'm stuck in my life, I don't know why, that's a good sign. I mean, that's an important signal that you're getting from your body. Okay. Oh, he's in Houston. Hello. Okay. We've got all sorts of people on, so this is exciting. So on both platforms, I'm on Facebook and on Instagram. So when that fried feeling, right? If you know what I'm talking about, it's a feeling of like, it's a little bit hard to describe, but the more that you pay attention to the sensations in your body, the more you're going to notice how these things show up for you, okay? So start to pay attention to your body. Start to pay attention to the sensations happening in your body, okay? This could look like a quickening heart rate, shallower breathing, a feeling of like electricity running through your body that's uncomfortable, digestive symptoms. It can look like a lot of other things that are a symptom of this, but could look like more of a medical problem, okay? So it could look like digestive symptoms, headaches, being tired all the time, fatigued, right? The list is long as to how this manifests. So if you know what this is, hello from Boston, yes, hey. So if you know how this shows up for you, can you please share? Or even if you're like, I'm not totally sure, but maybe this thing is connected to this, is connected to stress, is connected to burnout. Like, how do you experience that? That's really important. Okay, so in this time, I was considering quitting grad school. I was like, fuck this. I don't want to do this. I'm exhausted. And what am I doing in the first place, right? So I was having these like almost an existential crisis that was pretty challenging to work through. And luckily I had the support to work through it, but it's not easy. Okay. I was also in a relationship that was very exciting at first. Yeah, okay. We know where this is going, and full of infatuation in the beginning, okay? Reality check, that very rarely ever lasts, okay? That's not the foundation of love or a lasting relationship. That's a whole other conversation, right? Infatuation's not the same thing as love, and so that relationship also contributed to my burnout, and my burnout contributed to that relationship nosediving, basically. I was so stressed out, right? And so that relationship became really exhausting and overwhelming and extremely unfulfilling over time, okay? And then there's so many other things. I was working late nights, building my business. I hit a big leadership rank in my essential oil business with my team, all while earning my master's degree, okay? So yes, all these things are possible, but it's how we go about these aspects of our lives that's the important part. Like, yeah, we can drive hard all the time. We can keep doing that. We can override our system's signals, right? But that's how we get sick. Yes. Juan, is it Juan? Yeah, in Boston. I truly believe that our body responds to our minds. Absolutely. Some days we are more balanced and calm, but others we're not. I try to be more focused on improving in my meditation, knowing that stillness will come. Absolutely. Hi, Heather. Oh my gosh, I miss you. Thank you, Juan. That exactly, right? Juan's hearing me. So we broke up. Of course, right? I graduated. I earned my master's. I didn't give up. I got a full-time job. I moved out of the state, actually, for my job. Some of you may remember me moving to Oregon and then again to Utah. Now I'm in Utah. Heather. And I dove into being a therapist for very troubled, at-risk teenage girls in the high desert of Oregon. And that comes with a very high need for strong boundaries and lots of rest. Okay, so I was faced with the impact and the effects of my burnout. Okay, and so what did this look like for me? For me, and our symptoms can vary, but you have to pay attention to yourself. You have to know yourself, right? So they can be very different from mine. Start to pay attention. They could be pretty similar. Okay, if you're popping in now, let us know where you are and what you experience in terms of your body's response to stress and burnout. We're talking about it in large part as from a somatic perspective, from a body. Soma means body. Okay, so I was really cynical. This came through in my relationship. So then that rather than being able to see all of me, all he saw was my cynicism and thought it was just part of my personality, right? That it was just unchangeable. And I was having a hard time knowing which way was up. I thought that's how I was. And it was hard to separate the two as well. I was like, am I just a cynical person? Like, it can be so all-consuming you forget who you are, even, right? So but that wasn't true, of course. I was just in a really difficult season of my life, like full-time graduate school, full-time teaching yoga, plus 3 or 4 other jobs, yeah? And so when we're in the middle of this stress and burnout, it can seem like we're in a really dark hole and we can't see the way out of that place, right? So we can forget who we are in this moment. I felt really stuck for over a year after graduating. I wasn't taking anywhere close to the level of action that I had been doing to drive my business forward, to keep going, right? And then I shamed myself for that and wondered why I felt like shit. Yeah? Anybody relate? Yeah, let me know. This can be tough, yeah? So I felt like I was a failure. I had a ton of anxiety about all the above and didn't feel motivated, and then was heartbroken on top of that because certain things hadn't worked out, yeah? And then all the things that I was doing, absolutely. Stress comes from mental and emotional traumas. I'm not sure what you mean by that second part, but yes, mental and emotional trauma, exactly. Like, I'm explaining some of the ways in which we can take on trauma in our lives. And we'll talk more about that, the difference between big T and little t trauma. Trauma doesn't necessarily just have to include, like being in a car accident, what we call big T trauma. It can be lots of little things over time as well. Okay, so all the things that I was doing that I was usually so passionate about felt like the biggest chore, like an obligation. And then I just thought, because I'm so driven, I thought, what's wrong with me? Okay. Hi from the UK. Hello. Okay, so what the problem with most of these symptoms is that when we're driven, we try to override them. Yeah? We're taught to just work harder, to push through, to let it go, right? To just ignore the signs and the symptoms. And this is a symptom of our patriarchal society and by patriarchal, I mean very masculine, driving us forward, at least if you're in a Western society, right? Yes, trauma is anything that has some impact on the body, mind, and emotions. Exactly, right? And I would add to that on the definition of trauma is anything that our brain has trouble processing, right? Trauma can be very subjective based on how we view the world. Okay, and that's a whole other live. So again, when we are having these symptoms and we're driven, we tend to just override them. We don't see them as symptoms of a greater problem, of like an underlying problem. We just see them as a problem with ourselves, with our motivation. We internalize it, right? Because we have what we call an internal locus of control, we see that our life is our responsibility, and that's true. But we tend to then shame ourselves and become hard on ourselves for a natural response in the body. Okay? My friends say that I have the opposite problem. Nothing stresses me out. I don't consider myself an irresponsible person. Any suggestions? That's a great question, Juan. We can talk about, I'd like to know more about that, I think. What do you think, right? Do you get stressed out? What do you notice in your body? Do you notice stress in your body? Or are you pretty relaxed? Or are you really good at cutting yourself off from the feeling? Right? So maybe you could sit with that and let me know. Okay. So we're taught to just work harder, to push through. But what's really happening is our brain and body aren't able to clear the energies we're taking on all day. Okay? Hi, Will. Okay, so our nervous systems are constantly taking in information below the level of cognition. So what this means is that our bodies and our nervous systems they get all sorts of input that don't make it up into our conscious thought. So we're not even aware of all the input that's coming into our bodies that then gets sorted and filtered, and only parts of it go through. If we actually were able to wrap our minds around all the things that were happening, all the noises, sights, sounds, smells, things that we could take in, our brains would implode. So it's not subconscious and unconscious reality. Exactly. And what I'm talking about specifically, the filtering mechanism in the brain is called the reticular activating system. That's the filter that doesn't allow all those other things to come up into, hi Robin, come up into the upper parts of the brain. Okay, so what we're talking about here is what's happening below our level of awareness with stress and burnout, that we may not even realize is happening, but our body is aware. Our nervous systems take these sets of information in constantly. Okay, so we need to know how to work through the somatic impacts of our day-to-day life so that we can constantly be down-regulating, what we call down-regulating our nervous system. So when we're stressed, we're anxious, we're angry, our nervous system is activated. It's in a even a subtle state of fight, flight, freeze, and then we don't know what to do with that, and then it gets stuck in the body, and that's actually the physical manifestation of trauma. Okay, so all past trauma gets stored in the nervous system. This is a fact of life. All animals with nervous systems process stress and trauma through their nervous system, through their senses. And our bodies keep the score. There's a book by this name. Yes? Some of you may have read this. Okay. So an example of this is a Vietnam vet who robbed a convenience store 2 years in a row on the same day. Why? Let's go. Maybe I'll just leave that question out there. It's almost like a riddle. The Vietnam vet who robbed the convenience store 2 years in a row on the same day. Why? Okay, remind me to answer that a little later. I'll sit with that. So, how do we approach burnout from a somatic, embodied, holistic way that's not just overriding, that's not just checking boxes like, oh, I took a bath tonight. Sometimes that's not enough. That's the kind of the cliche around self-care, but how do we really work through this so that we can process the input that's constantly coming in, so we can feel clear, so we can feel safe, so we can feel calm. Yeah. So as humans, we've never been taught how to effectively discharge the energy that comes in to our nervous system. Okay, animals know how to shake this off, literally. I like to say, if you ever seen a dog run into a screen door, it just kind of shakes it off from head to toe, and that's it. And he's fine. Yeah. We wonder why we're stuck, why we feel depressed, why we feel anxious, why we're on all these antidepressants, why we're on all these anxiety medications, why people are using alcohol, why people are numbing themselves out. It's because they cannot They don't know how. They're never taught. It's not their fault, but there is a way to learn. They were never taught how to discharge the energy from their nervous system. Everybody is looking for peace and clarity and safety and love and understanding. Everybody. I don't care who you are. This is what we all are looking for. And then we develop strategies to try to get those things whether or not they're healthy. Okay? Is this making sense? So we normally, especially in our Western society, we are taught to think our way out of the stress. We listen to motivational podcasts. We listen to videos. We go to seminars, which can be great. But a lot of times they're just cognitive learning. It's not an embodied way of shifting how your body's taking in stress, okay, and holding stress. So if you can try to stop trying to think your way out of this, okay, it only works to a degree. It can be helpful if we have negative thought patterns, of course, yeah? If we have negative thought patterns, then we want to go that way. We want to work with the ways in which we think about the world and look at, are these things really true, okay? But ultimately, we need to get into our bodies, and not in the same way that we teach in yoga, okay? Yoga and mindfulness are wonderful, and they're a great foundation, but they're not necessarily trauma-informed, and oftentimes there is a lot of spiritual bypass that is taught by inexperienced teachers. Yeah? Inexperienced teachers that tend to want to override the struggle of life and teach their students how to do that. So yes, meditation, affirmations, there's different ways of accessing different layers of the brain. And then we need to go deeper into the body. Exactly, right? So I'm just saying it's not just one thing. It's not just a few things where a lot of teachers I see out there are promoting like, just let it go. It's all light and love. No, it's not. Sometimes life sucks. There is trauma in life, right? Like, can we get real as a spiritual community and acknowledge that not everybody lives the way that we live? Some people are in a constant state of trauma and abuse, right? That is absolutely incomprehensible to us in the Western, some of us in the Western world, okay? There's a lot of abuse and trauma that happens in the West as well, okay? Don't get me wrong. But if we can look at our lives from this more embodied, holistic, integrated way and acknowledge that there is suffering in life. This was one of the main teachings of the Buddha, right? There is suffering in life, but what do we do with it? Okay. So ultimately, again, we need to get into our bodies. If it feels safe, okay, if you've had heavy trauma and it doesn't feel safe to be in your body, that's a different thing. And we approach that a little bit differently. And if that's you, I'd love for you to connect with me and I can give you some other tips, okay? But we need to get into our bodies and notice the sensations in our bodies and learn to give the body the time and space that it needs to discharge all the stress that it's taken on. The body processes things a lot more slowly than the mind, okay? Yes, it's not about rainbows and unicorns. It's more about holistic healing, recognizing the suffering, exactly, and being with the suffering, being with the hurt. Acknowledging, it's almost like being with, how would you hold a little baby that's crying and sad? Or a puppy, right? If you imagine that your heart and your body are these tender things that need your love and attention, that changes your whole relationship with your body, right? So I had a massive breakthrough around this time when all this stuff fell apart about how I approach relationships and how I approach my life. And it only happened once I stopped trying so hard. And once life was then trying to like wrestle all the control I was trying to hold on to out of my white-knuckled fingers, right? So life will do this, right? We have moments where we lose control. That's also a hallmark of trauma, something that we didn't choose. We didn't choose that. So in this time, my life literally broke me open again. Yeah. And I would imagine you've had moments like this. If you're listening to this and this speaks to you, I would imagine there's been something in for you that's happened that's really hurt you. Felt really powerless too. Right? So thank you for being here if that's you. I've been broken open before, and this was a new level of being broken open, of knowing myself. And it was an up-leveling and gave me the opportunity to change my life at a fundamental level. Okay? Again, if you're coming on, let us know where you are. Where's your body right now? And how do you relate to this topic? Burnout and stress. Okay? So I had to I chose to reevaluate how I had been conditioned to work harder and harder without rest. Okay? I had been conditioned in my young life that working harder is always better. Okay? Give me some love taps there. Some love hearts, yeah? If you relate to that. Were you conditioned to simply work harder as a means of overriding, and of course nobody says this because they don't know, but as a means of overriding your system's natural responses to stress and to life? Yes, exactly, right? So we have to literally recondition ourselves. We have to reparent ourselves and we have to look at our beliefs and our values. Where is this coming from? Why do I keep pumping my body with caffeine? Let's just speak to a very common experience in our culture of pumping my body full of caffeine so that I can keep going, when what I really need is to rest. I need some downtime, okay? So, what healed me? Okay. What healed me? How do we prevent this? How do we prevent stress? How do we prevent burnout? One, get into nature. If you're not a nature person, become one. I don't know what else to say. Just go sit outside. You don't have to go into the wilderness like I do. You can just go, even sit in a park, put your phone away, leave your phone at home maybe. Ooh, that can feel scary for us, right? We're pretty much glued to our phones. And get into nature. Nature has massive impacts on our brain structure, our brain functioning, and they've done all sorts of research on this that you can very easily Google. The sweet spot is spending like 2 to 3 days out. If you can backpack, if you can camp, if you can go on a retreat, right? Really be in nature. It's going to reset your nervous system, okay? So we're talking about literally how do we reset the nervous system from all the stress and burnout and fatigue and trauma, okay? I remember being in Utah and going out to this huge expanse of this huge wide open space that was as far as my eye could see, and listening to, I was actually listening to an audiobook on this topic at the time, and just in the instructions, it was going through a meditation. It was just feel the earth. Feel how much Mother Gaia supports you. You have this entire amazing planet that is here under your feet. Feel your feet. And that's actually a somatic grounding exercise. Can you feel your feet on the floor, on the earth, grounding down, getting heavier? Start to feel the weight of your body. And then notice how that shifts the energy in your body. Okay. Walk as slowly as you need when you're out there. Right? I like to go on backpacking trips that are where I don't have a destination. Right? If you have the space to do this, even just go for a day. Just go as far as you want. Don't put a destination on it. Yeah? Okay. So, essential oils. There are a lot of essential oils that I use. to help me with this. Well, that's a whole other topic. If you're interested in that, either comment below or send me a DM. But for now, a few big ones that I use are a blend called One, a blend called Hope, and the individual oils of jasmine and magnolia. Okay, jasmine helps heal sexual trauma. Okay, and facilitates the healing of emotional trauma as well. Okay, and it's very soothing for the nervous system. Okay, again, we store. The body is, the trauma is in the body, not in the story. Okay. So jasmine also helps encourage safety within relationships. So that's getting more into attachment theory, which we can talk about it. How do we attach to our loved ones? How did our childhood relationships impact the way we show up in adult relationships? That's what that means. Okay. And then magnolia, this oil has one of the highest levels of linalool, which is the chemical constituent that makes oils effective. Okay, the chemical constituents are actually the things that are impacting your brain. The body metabolizes to do what it needs to do with. But that's another conversation as well. But the highest levels of linalool found in any oil, which makes it extremely calming. So the linalool is also found in lavender, for instance, okay? So I've used this after being cussed out in the field at my job as a wilderness therapist by a 16-year-old, okay, as I'm leaving the field. I'm like, ooh, bye, magnolia, all over myself. And I roll it up and down the spine. If I'm noticing digestive issues that are connected to stress, I will rub the magnolia or any emotional support oil over my belly, actually. Okay. And that massively shifts the dynamic that's happening in my gut and happening in my brain. Okay. Magnolia, for me, working in the intensity of the work that I do, has soothed just about every emotional distress I've experienced out there. Okay. Another tool, white space in your calendar. If you're driven, if you've been conditioned to work more and more and more because that makes you better, that makes you more worthy, that makes you whole, yeah. We might have a tendency to overfill our calendar, to add more things to the to-do list. And this comes with also just being passionate about life. You want to do all the things. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but we have to be aware and conscious of what we're doing and why. So we want to experience life all of the time. So we try to just cram our calendars full of stuff, right? So this is beautiful, and it's also draining if we're not careful, yeah? I think this might be one of the biggest culprits in all of this. We need white space with nothing in our calendars on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so take stuff out, delegate it out, automate it, or get rid of it if it's not necessary. Okay, so one of those three: automate, delegate, eliminate. Try to get it off your calendar. Another thing that helped too is changing my location. Sometimes the place that we live is not the right place for us. Okay, I was living in San Francisco. I was living in the East Bay before that. If you're there, you know what I'm talking about. And honestly, you guys, I was fucking miserable. I was miserable. I was not happy. It was hard. It was a struggle every day. Yes, I found joy in a lot of it, but it didn't last. Maybe it lasted a year and a half that I really enjoyed the city. And then I was just over it. And I tried to make it work. And it's like sometimes maybe that place isn't for you, right? And we force it, or we're too scared to change something, okay? So I actually had the opportunity to go work up in Bend, Oregon, and I'd been there before. I absolutely loved it. And they said, well, you can commute there. And I said, nope, I'm moving. I'm just gonna go for 6 months. And then I realized I was up there and I was like, I'm never going back. I'm never going back, okay? And I had been thinking about moving to Oregon before that. Yeah, Somebody changed countries, you guys. sometimes the country we live in is not where we want to be. Sometimes we know, in your heart, you know what you need. What is it that you need? Listen to yourself. Figure out a way to make it work. Your happiness is worth it, right? And I had thought about moving to Portland or Bend a few years before all this stuff happened, and it just so happened, again, that I had the opportunity to do so. So the universe had my back in that, in giving me what I needed to heal, right? So my soul and my psyche knew that I would do better there, and they were trying to tell me that before I was able to do it, or before my mind was willing, right? And once I was there, I came alive again. It's for real, you guys. Sometimes it's a change in location, okay? And I just had so much more space. I had more work-life balance. I got back into connection with myself, okay? Another thing, somatic psychotherapy or somatic coaching. I do somatic coaching through a modality called somatic experiencing. That's a trauma release technique, okay? I realized how much trauma and activation I was holding in my nervous system, and we all have it. It's not a matter of if we have activation in our systems, it's a matter of how aware we are of it, okay? So I'm going to be talking about this work ongoingly because I'm so passionate about it, but this is a very different approach to traditional talk therapy, okay? Somatic psychotherapy and somatic coaching, right, are very different. So if you haven't had a great experience with talk therapy, with regular therapy, or you didn't feel it was super effective, sometimes somatic therapy can be a total game changer, okay? Again, mindfulness and yoga are helpful foundational practices for this work, but they're not necessarily the same, okay? That we want to distinguish between the two. We can incorporate the somatic work, the somatic awareness into what we're doing when we're practicing our mindfulness, but the mindfulness doesn't necessarily include an embodied approach to healing trauma, okay? Another huge thing is sleep, right? This is a non-negotiable. You can read all about it, Google it. If you're used to getting less than 7 hours of sleep, it just means that you're used to being sleep deprived, okay, or over caffeinating. So let's not kid ourselves on that one. Our bodies need anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep, okay? All right. Any other regular holistic therapies, I highly recommend acupuncture. Highly. If you can find a community acupuncture clinic in your town or your city, so worth it. This massively resets the nervous system as well, okay? Massage, amazing. Yoga Nidra, such a powerful practice. If you would like a recording of a Yoga Nidra from me, let me know. Send me a DM, I can send you one, okay? Kirtan Kriya. Okay, this is a beautiful practice. I could teach this in another video. Kirtan Kriya is pairing mantra with movement in your fingers, right? So we have nadis, energetic channels, meridians in Chinese medicine, nadis or meridians in our fingers all through our body, right? So yoga, Kirtan Kriya for stress and burnout, so helpful. And I can teach that in another video. If you're interested, let me know if you're interested in that, okay? Something that helped me as well in this really stressful time. Hi, Courtney, honey. Mwah. I love Kirtan. Yes, Kirtan. And then Kirtan Kriya is a separate meditation practice. I heart Kale. I like your username. Yes. Yeah, so it's a separate meditation practice that brings movement in, okay, with the fingers, just like this, yeah? And can have it really shifted my brain. And Kirtan, of course, honeys, if you love Kirtan, so healing, so profound, yeah? Okay, something that helped me in all of this work as I was doing this was learning that a miracle is a shift in perception. A miracle is a shift in perception. I'll say that one more time. A miracle Anything that's a shift in perception, we can consider a miracle. So if today, right now, you're having a shift in perception about something that the way that you go about your life, that is a miracle. We've done our work, right? Yay. It's possible. So we can open ourselves up. And I'm getting a feeling of joy. And I know that by all this tingly feeling that feels pleasant. Okay, so notice your body as we talk about these things. You're going to feel various sensations. I'm leading by example, what I notice just when I talk about that. There's so much hope in knowing that we can experience miracles on a day-to-day basis based on shifting our perception, right? That is the universe supporting us in our work, in our life. That's the universe showing up for us, yeah? So the other piece is we can accept as well that perceived obstacles, are detours in the right direction, yeah? Okay, so in wrapping this up, okay, we're gonna wrap this up. We've been here together for a minute. Get honest about how you might be holding on, controlling, not able to let go of certain circumstances in your life. Are you committed to certain behaviors? You will know this by the fact that you keep doing it despite not wanting to. Or you keep doing it, but maybe wishing there was another way. Like you keep overfilling your calendar, but wish that you didn't. Right? So get honest. Really pay attention to how does this thing in my body, when I add this thing, I start to get an awareness. It's like I'll add in something in my calendar that I want to do, but then I'll add it in for 2 days during the week, and I'll get a sensation. I'm like, that's too much. Okay? And then I back it down to 1, and that feels better. So as you start to pay attention, you get more feedback from yourself. Okay? So when these obstacles are coming up, we can say, thank you, universe. This is a prayer. You can write this down. Thank you, universe, for helping me see this obstacle as an opportunity. I am willing to step back and let you lead the way. Okay? I am willing to change my perception about this. Okay? I am open to a shift in perception, remembering that a shift in perception is a miracle. Okay? So, deep breath. That was a lot. Notice how you feel. Notice the sensations in your body. If there's not a lot going on, it could be numbness. That's okay too. Notice the numbness. Notice the nothingness. Okay? What do you notice? Okay, so again, we've been talking about stress and burnout, how to overcome them, how to prevent them if we are driven, motivated, multi-passionate human beings. Okay, so this recording will go up. We're just about done. Watch the whole thing. And then send me your questions, send me your thoughts, send me your struggles. I want to hear from you. What was the most useful about this for you? Right? Okay? That is all for today. Mwah. Have a wonderful day.